All right, I'm live. It's the Nazarite, bringing you Hebrew lore in days of yore, God willing. But who knows, right? Going here once again pretty spontaneously. Got my brother's music on in the background. There is a lot going on this week. Yesterday was Jerusalem Day, right? The reunification of Jerusalem. And we have Shavuot to look forward to. We have a new moon tonight, the birth of a new moon, the moon of Sivan. And we have the weekly Torah portion of Naso, which includes the Nazarite vow, right, and the laws of the Nazariteship in it. So I've dubbed it in recent years Nazarite Awareness Week, as some may know. The persistent cough still persists, not quite as much, but I'm still trying to work through the cough from 5 weeks ago, post-COVID. Amazing. This virus. All right. Getting over it day by day. Hey, there's someone here and a like. Hello, hello. I wonder who it is. Is it someone from my family? No, probably not. But either way, say hello. Let me know what's up. So the new moon. This new moon of Sivan. Once again, the disclaimer, I suppose. If I get too coffee, I'm just gonna end the broadcast, even though I don't want to. It's been, as I said just now, it's been lessened, but not entirely out of my system yet. This cough. Listening to my brother's Ambient Dreams record. I like it. It has a few really catchy songs that kind of speak to me. So this new moon, the moon of Sivan, I actually, as I said, did it spontaneously. I actually don't recall offhand the sign of Sivan and the things associated with it. Let's see if I can look it up quickly in Sefer Yetzirah or the Bnei Yisachar. Look in the Sefer Yetzirah. See if anything pops open there. Sivan. Okay. We're at Sefaria now. Chapter 5. We're going to look up the month of Sivan. Okay. Lower this a bit. Himlich ot Zayin v'kashar lo keter. Crowned the seventh letter, Zayin, and made a crown, fashioned a crown for it. V'tzar bo te'omim ba'olam, and it made the twins, right? What is it? It's not called the twins, but what is it? Right, the twins in the constellations, Sivan in the months of the year, and the right foot or the right leg. So the different months corresponding to different organs or right parts of the human body, they have a certain letter that's associated with them, a certain name of God which is associated with them. And there's a progression there. Whether you take it from Tishrei, the oral tradition, or Nisan, the original New Year, right? There are 4 New Years, again, corresponding to different things. Let's not get into that right now. So it's the twins. It's duality. I don't think that it's by chance that there are certain signs which have a duality to them. I don't remember how many. Oh, pardon me. Hang on a second. Oops. I need to remember the zodiac name of the twins. What is it called? Gemini. No, not Gemini. Wait, what? No. Now we're looking. Oh, so it is Gemini. My mistake. Okay. Didn't sound familiar because I know them in Hebrew, not in English usually. So there's Gemini, the twins, and Sivan and the right leg. Now the leg, unlike the arm or the hand, it can be a more harmonious mixture, let's say, of right and left, because of the way that, you know what, am I getting ahead of myself here? No, let's talk about the new moon. Let's talk about Sivan. Let's talk about the Torah, right? It was given on Shavuot. It was given on the 6th of Sivan. And Sivan, if we're going to look at it in that sense of Te'omim, which is the twins, which is duality, and the right leg, which corresponds with Netzach, right? Whereas the right arm or hand corresponds with chesed. This idea of the right leg, where it has a left element to it, more than the right hand or arm does of the left one. There are things which happened in the lower sfirot of Netzach and Hod where there was a kind of something in there flipped, let's put it that way, and was then put right again. Something like that. But there was a kind of mixture that happened between the left and right, between chesed and gvura. And so when we speak of the legs which hold up the body, right, the torso, and we speak of the right, it's a mixture of right and left, leaning to the right, right, with netzach. Netzach means victory, the attribute of victory, of being victorious, let's say. It has an element of of gevura, of din to it. And the Torah itself as well, they say that the sword and the book came down together, Safra v'Saifa, because there's this duality here where along with the Torah, you could have that the Torah has its violent edge. I think we can know that from reading it. Whether you take the stories as metaphorical or literal, there's violence there, tons of it. Whether it's the animal sacrifices or people being annihilated, or a genocide, tons of horrible things happening there. And very good things, but I digress. This idea of having that duality, but with it leaning towards yamin, leading towards chesed. It could flip on you. They say that the Torah, if I'm not mistaken, if you merit it, it becomes an elixir of life. And if you, well, how does it go? Well, if you don't merit it, it becomes the thing which kills you and weakens you. Now that can be taken in different ways. I'm saying it now because again, this idea of the sign of the month, of the Hebrew month, right, being Te'omim, being Gemini, it doesn't correspond with the uh, with the mainstream zodiac or astrology. The Hebrew astrology and the Hebrew zodiac are a very different thing in my experience. I don't know anything about the other zodiac. I barely know anything about this zodiac. I had to look it up. But because it's a new moon, I've spoken a lot about the moon during these new moon broadcasts, right? And the moon, the sea, the feminine, Israel, that which is lacking, that which is wanting, that which is the culmination, that which is, right, the moon that is destined, as it says in prophecy, to shine like the sun, so to speak. Things will go back to the way they were. And this new moon, this idea of the new moon being one where there are, they blast the ram's horn and the horns, right, the silver horns in the temple. I made it a custom a relatively short while ago to blast the ram's horn on the first of every month. Hopefully, I'll do it tomorrow morning. And I got the idea not from actually the Torah, but where it appears, but more from A.J. Jacobs and the Year of Living Biblically, that book where he does that on the new moon. So let's talk about Shavuot. Let's talk about the Torah. Oh man, I could start now and die, right? And many, many years from now, I'll be eating and stuff while I'm doing it, and there'll be a toilet, and I'll keep talking about Torah, and I'd go to my grave still talking about Torah. But I think what we can learn, well, there's a lot we can learn. There's a tradition called Tikkun Leil Shavuot. It is the adornment or rectifying of the eve of Shavuot, or the night of Shavuot. Tradition, and by tradition I'm quoting Midrash here, says, according to the verse, um, according to the verse that says that Moses brought the people of Israel to God. Right? He brought them before God. And the Midrash says they fell asleep. It was supposed to be, but they fell asleep. There is a what's called a tikkun leil shavuot, an adornment or a rectifying of that time. When we stand on the morning, sometimes at sunrise, of the day of Shavuot, that's the time of the revelation on Sinai, according to tradition, the 6th of Sivan at dawn. And to experience that after having a night, an evening of Torah, of dialogue, or of, depending on your custom and your tradition, I've done the Ashkenazi one, I've done the Eastern Rite, Edot HaMizrach Sephardi one. I mean, both. Many times they have lectures ongoing throughout the night, and people stay up all night learning Torah. Many of them read Tehillim, the Psalms, because it's King David's yahrzeit, right? The anniversary of his death was on Shavuot, if I'm not mistaken, according to tradition. Shavuot is the time when we receive that Torah, we renew that covenant in a different way. Because we're not in Sinai. We're not in front of that mountain. But just like it says in the Haggadah, right, the Pesach Haggadah, that in every generation a person must see him and herself, right, as if they are the ones who came out of Egypt. When we get to that morning of Shavuot, it would help, much like we do on Rosh Hashanah with giving God the kingship. Now it's giving God being partners with Torah, holding on to that covenant. Because the kingship of God that we sort of enact and celebrate on Rosh Hashanah, that's something which belongs to creation at large. The receiving of the Torah, the giving of the Torah, everything that happened there with Moses, the great shepherd. That's something where I have had experiences that were as close to being at the foot of Sinai as I could, and I'll explain what I mean. They say that during the revelation on Sinai, there was so much love and sort of, I guess, you could say euphoria and religious ecstasy, or it says in the Midrash, "Kafa alehem har kegigit," which means that he sort of, Midrash says that God picked up the mountain and brought it over the congregation of Israel, and he basically said, if you receive the Torah, that's all well and good, and if you don't, I'll drop the mountain on you. And I think I've heard that what the Midrash is trying to say is not that the Hebrews were coerced into it in any kind of violent way, but that the love they experienced and the transcendence they experienced was so meaningful and deep and impactful and, well, psychedelic, that they couldn't say anything else but, yes, we want to make a covenant with the Most High. We will receive this Torah. We'll try and act according to its laws. Now, that was thousands of years ago, and here I am now trying to do my thing. But the Torah, other than minor changes, I think minor, is the very same Torah. And we are called, I am called, every Shavuot to re-accept it and to rediscover it. And unlike on Simchat Torah, on the 8th day of assembly, when we restart reading the Torah, this is not simply rereading it in a year or 3 years, as was tradition, that is once a year or once every 3 years, but this is the commemoration of the receiving of the Torah itself in its, right, and that revelation, where only later on were the tablets given, only later on did Moses write it down. It was something a lot more, what it would be, amorphous, I guess. And we are taught that the souls of all of Israel and maybe others, I don't quite remember what the Midrash says, thinking Israel, everyone was there. Everyone was there receiving the Torah. Everyone was there, right? They all said, Na'aseh v'nishma, right? We will perform it and we will listen to it. Right? We'll do it and we'll heed it. Shavuot is a very special time. Unlike the other holidays of pilgrimage, Sukkot and Pesach, this one is not 7 or 8 days. Well, it's not 7 days. And it also doesn't start at the full moon. It starts towards the beginning of the month, unlike the other two. Although you can bring the fruit, right, the first fruit, what's called the bikurim, and you can perform all the different rituals, or nearly all the different rituals, for 7 days after the holiday. And you can perform your duties at the temple or at the tabernacle. Well, it's the temple because it's the fruit and not the. And that was only when they arrived in Israel. And Nazarite Awareness Week. But before I go to Nazarite Awareness Week in Parashat Naso, let's see if there's anything in the chat. Oh, okay. Ariel Marshall, hello, hi. Hey, dude, he says, nice to have you back. Hello, nice to be here. New moon, new moon, you saw me standing alone. Yes, quite right, quite right. Without a love of my own. Nice to have you, Ariel. So Nazarite Awareness Week. Man, what can I say? Oh, look at the mess over there. What can I say? Well, I'm slumming it here, man. Going spontaneously. I have no bullet points, no notes. I'm just yakking for the past 15 minutes. But I'm enjoying myself. This broadcast has been so scattered in the recent weeks. And and I can't say that I have a justification other than the cough, which was a factor, a very deciding factor. But now, even though it's getting better, I'm not going back. I'm not going back online, and I should. I really, really should, and I hope that I do. Nazarite Awareness Week. I have been privileged this past year, to meet and speak with fellow Nazarites. More, that is, one or two more. Sarah, Hayona Eisenman, on the Skype here, on not Skype, on YouTube, right? We had our dialogue here, and I met with Rabbi Yoshua Friedman in the Old City, who wrote the book Nazir Elohim, which I've finished, and I'm going to go over it again, but not right now. I'm in the middle of a different book on the Nazarite ship that I also received during that week. Such abundance of Nazarite awareness. And I kind of, in a silly way, dubbed this week Nazarite Awareness Week because I didn't feel that the Nazarite ship was getting enough love during its time in the year, right, in the course of the year in Parashat Naso, this week's Torah portion. Squeezed in there between the woman gone astray and the priestly blessings, the Nazarite ship it's quite a gem, in my biased opinion. And when I say Nazarite Awareness Week, I don't mean to be self-serving or egocentric or none of that. But part of why I'm having this channel, part of why I'm broadcasting right now, part of why this is the username and this is the title and this is this persona, is because I do think that the Nazarite ship deserves a lot more love. I don't think I'm the one who's basically, I'm not acting exactly as a perfect example of the Nazarite ship by any means, but it's a life that I've been living for a while. Always glad to speak of it, always glad to learn more of it, always glad to share and be taught of it by others. It's such a significant part of my daily living, and yet it's so, but at this point, I think it's sort of intrinsic to it. And again, not in a complete way, nothing's 100%. But when I say Nazarite Awareness Week, I mean, let's bring that, we need to be talking more about it. I think those who are partaking of it and going in that path, right? Those who are taking that vow, I think there needs to be a more, I might be wrong, but it's like I would like to see more. I would like to see it become more mainstream, and I mean that in the positive sense of the word. Because religious people that I've met, the few that I've met, and who either asked or knew, a good few of them. What's a good few? Only a handful have I ever had this conversation with, right, in real life, and who were religious, like Orthodox religious. So this statement used to be true, and what I was going to say is that Orthodox people that I've met were kind of against it and anti-vows and anti-Nazarite-ship. And there is the opinion in halacha that says that we may not take the Nazarite vow. There is that opinion. It's an opinion. It's not halacha, not by the Rambam and others, but it is one opinion. So I suppose in that way I understand. But I say that we need to have a conversation about it, not necessarily about being a Nazarite, but about what the Nazarite vow represents. And who better to do it than those who are trying to walk that path? On the one hand, I want to speak of the Nazarite ship, and on the other hand, I'm feeling that maybe I'll stop now after almost 20 minutes and pick it up on Wednesday with something maybe more dedicated towards the Nazarite ship. I've made videos of this nature before, obviously. It's the name of the channel, for crying out loud. I speak of the Nazarite ship a lot in connection to many things. And yet, here in this week's Torah portion, I'd like to maybe even find a new angle, something that I haven't learned yet, something that is organically growing, that hasn't clicked yet. And we'll see what happens on Wednesday. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it. Those who were here, Ariel was here, thank you. And those who maybe were here and left, because I know that there was Perhaps someone else at some point. Or maybe just a glitch. This was fun. Relatively short, but nevertheless a lot of fun. I didn't do these topics justice by any means. Not the new moon, and not Shavuot, and not Sivan in and of itself, right, this month, nor the Nazarite trip or Parashat Naso. Maybe, God willing, and me wanting, I'll be able to broadcast again this week and get back into a schedule. I am loath to say that once again because I've said it before and it didn't come to pass. But I want it to be more important to me again, even after I took a break for a few weeks because of COVID and stuff. I want to get back there. It's important to me. It always has been important to me. Regardless of how many viewers or comments or likes, though I do appreciate them and cherish them. This is something that I should not let go of, if only for my sake, because I have to speak, just like I have to write. So, God willing, until then, maybe a short tomorrow, but maybe not. Maybe broadcasting again on Wednesday, maybe not. Maybe speaking of the Nazarite ship, maybe not. We'll see. Adonai Yazo. Until then, Laila Tov. Let's have a wonderful new moon, a wonderful new week, with everything that it encompasses. Go with God. God bless.